road, you go back into it, and what it does, it gives you one of those, a pavement condition index, a PCI, and it tells you where your PCI is on the streets. Now, a 70 PCI is acceptable. Below that, your road starts to fail, and it fails very rapidly after that. So we try to keep the PCIs in that range. So what it does, it gives me a PCI, let's say Joe Smith Street comes out as a 45, then we know that's a high priority street to get fixed, but we also look at traffic that was on it, other conditions on it. So what we have in front of you tonight was the firm that we had selected to do this raw data to collect all that for us. We analyzed 3 firms. They submitted on the RFQ. We reviewed all their documentation, and we selected the firm Roadway Assessment Services to do this. They have a very outstanding program, able to put this data into the paver program, which is what we desperately need for our street program to make sure we're doing the streets that need to be done. And we're looking at the streets on a citywide basis. So that's basically where I'm at tonight, is presenting the firm we'd like to enter into a contract with to do the raw data for us. They've committed to me to start right after the first of the year, have it done within 3 months or earlier if they can. And like I said, it's a tremendous tool to have, telling us the street conditions of everything we have. And that gives us the ability to come up with a street improvement program that makes sense for us. So I kind of consolidated it down very quickly, but if y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to talk to you about it, explain it to you, or any other questions you may have on it.
Okay, so they go through, they do this analysis, and they feed your program, and it says the following streets are in priority of this one needs to be fixed first, and you put in, and until the transportation committee comes up with another finance, you say we got $2 million a year.
Right.
So it will take a look at that, and it'll say, here's the ones that need to be fixed for that $2 million.
Yes, sir.
Can you override that recommendation?
Absolutely, you can. I mean, this has to come to the committee for approval, has to come to council for approval. But this is a very analytical, statistical analysis of our roads. It takes all the guesswork out of it. You know, we have the attributes in there to make sure we're getting what we want. Like I said, I don't want to go spend $500,000 on a road that has 2 people on it when I need to spend $500,000 on a road that's got 50 people on it. So those are the attributes we put in it to be able to prioritize the roads that we need done.
So how do you handle the number of houses on a street with the new construction that's going on, particularly in the north part of town?
We can put in the number of vacant lots, knowing that they're going to be absorbed in the next year or 2. Like I said, it's a 5-year program, but it's a living document. We can update it anytime we need to, rerun the program, but one of the attributes we can put in there is the number of vacant lots or the number of lots we think is going to be developed.
Okay, so really the 5-year is for them to do the analysis of the road, and then you would work with it on a yearly basis or more often than that to come up with your priority list.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any other questions for him? Jerry?
The Transportation Committee, comprised of myself and Cedric and Al, reviewed this in our last committee meeting, and at that time we had a proposal that was about $10,000 more than this, so we asked staff to go out and they can't do it. This is a consulting contract essentially, and so they went out and did some research, and they're recommending this this plan. And like you said, it takes the guesswork out of which streets need to be done and should have priority in the city. And I think the Transportation Committee, I'll leave it to Cedric and Al, but I think the Transportation Committee recommends that we do this. So,
okay.
And really it's something I think, I don't remember now if it was Brent or Al or exactly who, but somebody needs to get the credit for recommending that we take this $2 million a year in SIP stuff and issue some, and consider issuing some debt the way interest rates are now, and considering that we're not going to be able to get money at these kind of costs in the future, probably, unlikely that we will, or that infrastructure costs are going to go down, they're going to increase, we're fairly certain. And so kind of the idea is to take that $2 million, or a portion of that $2 million, to amortize street bonds that would be used over some period of time, 3 to 5 years, in improving streets.
Yeah, if you work a big program, then you don't have to worry about the contractor saying, well, I've got to relocate all of my people if he's here and he's working on multiple programs. It's got to be cheaper.
Well, yeah, and if you think about also that infrastructure costs are increasing at a much more rapid rate than the interest costs. So if we can borrow money at 2% and the inflation rate is 5 or 6% for interest, for construction projects, we need to get as much of it we can get done right now. That just saves money in the long term.
The number that came up, and maybe Al or Cedric can help me with this, but I think we initially, when the committee met, we were talking about $10 million in street bonds. And I think $419,000, is that the right amount that would amortize that over 20 years? I think that's the right amount.
That's close to what I recall, yeah.
It was close to that. And so you can see what we're doing with $2 million, what we might be able to do for, to get into a street improvement program that would help everybody in the city. First of all, I think we need to take the guesswork out of what streets need to be done.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
We kind of got into that this last budget period when we talked about, what streets needed to be addressed and that sort of thing.
Well,
So,
it'll be a good basis of why we set the priorities instead of just
right.
we drove on the road and we thought it needed it. That's
We hope it'll take the guesswork out. Now, I don't know if Cedric or Al would like to add anything to that. And,
No, I agree with the
Cedric.
with the company. Oh, my bad. Sorry. Hello. No, I was saying I'm in agreement with the company that the city decided to go with, and also it is a good thing that we do take the guesswork out of which streets need to be done in Greenville. We know that's been a hot topic about 30 years. I'm 44 years old, so about 30 plus, maybe longer than that, has been an issue on which streets are priority. So this will take the guesswork out, and then I guess we come up with a way to get which streets done first. I hope it's not based on, I know you're saying it's based on price once you put everything in, but hopefully we come up with a good program to get.
It does. Paper does come up. I've used it successfully. I've talked to hundreds of public works directors over the states. Majority of them use it, and it does take 95% of the guesswork out of it. It gives you an empirical, analytical analysis of your roads, of what really needs to be done. And it's a very good, it's a nationally recognized program, Paver is. The firm that we selected is very well versed in the Paver program and how it works and how to put data into it. So I feel very comfortable with them doing it. And I think it will give us a tremendous asset having this program and having what streets need to be done, and so we can have a systematic approach on what needs to be done.
Is this a, I'm on, okay. Is this a program that, with the pavement assessment, that we're gonna redo every 2 or 5 years, or is there a period of time?
We can do it anytime we want to. Generally what it does is a 5-year program. Like I said, it's a living document. As we complete roads, the best PCI can have is 100. So a brand new road, we'll give that a 99 or 100, put that back into the program. So the program basically knocks it out and goes and reprioritizes the streets that are in there. Because you could have a street today, let's say it comes out with the PCI of 65. Well, a year and a half from now, it's starting to deteriorate faster than we anticipated, and now it's got a PCI of, let's say, 52. We'll put that back into the program, rerun it again, and see where the prioritization comes out again. So it's a living document, a living program that we can keep updating as we need to. It's not set in stone for 5 years, but it gives you a good basis to set up a 5-year program.
The program, based on the parameters we put in, also calculates the deterioration, correct?
Yes, it does.
Based on traffic load.
It does.
houses,
It takes into
whatever.
account what they think the deterioration will be based upon the traffic count and the other attributes we put in there.
Does that mean, I would assume, it doesn't mean that you're necessarily gonna fix the worst roads first? Because there may be a road that's, you said 70 is acceptable, but So there may be roads in that 50 to 60 range that have a higher priority than the 20 or 30 roads that are just already, we're gonna have to completely rebuild those.
That's true, and that's one of the reasons why we put the attribute in there of, like I said, if there's only one house on the road, then it's not gonna get a high priority. I mean, I'm being very honest with you on that. If I'm looking at a road that's the same condition, but it's got 50 people on it, that road's gonna receive a lot more priority in the program, in the algorithm of how it chooses the roads.
So if you take a road like Sale Street, where we've got a contract to overhaul it.
Right.
He comes through, does his assessment, and says, okay, this is a 50 street. Once that rework is done, then you can go in and change that from a 50 to a 99 or 100.
That's correct.
Okay.
Considering that the number one driver of citizen complaints is the roads, I fully support that we move forward on this. And not only that, I'd like to see, and we've had some preliminary discussions of the level of bonding we can get, taking the portion of the $2 million that we annually set aside. We may be able to go higher than 10 million.
Yeah, those were just hypotheticals that we started with, the committee was given to start with.
I think we need to maximize what we can bond and still cover within that, use that money for payments. And
I think you need to be cautious that you don't dedicate the full 2 million, because things will suddenly occur that we still need money to fix. So, you know, if you say, well, we're gonna use the whole 2 million per year, and then suddenly we get a giant pothole in the middle of the road or something, we've got to have money to be able to fix that. So there will be a percentage to pay for what you're trying to do as a big program, but you need some to be able to have as a reserve.
right, we've had discussions of better defining what street improvement is going to be used for too. We could take some of the money and put it actually into the streets department budget for road maintenance or striping, things that aren't normally considered improvement.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions on this?
The analysis of the street, is it curb to curb?
Yes, sir, includes the curbs and the sidewalks.
Okay, and then is it
They've got-
elevation, account for the elevation for stormwater drainage?
We're gonna put the drainage in as an attribute to it. This is a laser-guided camera system that picks up all this data at one time. It's a raw data dump. They go through, tweak that data, then put it into the paver program.
Considers the underlying utilities situation.
Okay.
like
Well, I
ground
mean, just
penetrating.
driving around after rain and seeing pooling water in different areas, or hearing from the citizens of water running into their house or into their yard, that concern?
Right.
Any other questions? We'll have this subject when later in the meeting as far as a vote. Any clarification questions?
Well, of course, from the city council's concern, we're talking about, I think the committee is unanimous in the need to attempt to bring this to the citizens for a vote in May because of what may happen to interest rates. I don't think we want to do it in November or have a special election for it. So we're moving towards that. And I guess we can talk about that in the regular session.
Do we have, I mean, is it the type of bond that we have to go out for like that, or because we're absorbing it, can we do CO bonds, or how does that work?
We're talking about general obligation bonds that the citizens would vote on, not a CO bond.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
if that's your question.
Yeah, it is, and I think the mayor's point is right, that you don't want to spend 20 years worth of
No.
money in year one, and then for 19 years you're broke to
Right.
fix things. But I think you could use half of that money and make a good.
Half or three-quarter.
Yeah, and make and I think we also ought to look at just the $2 million is not all the money we spend on streets, because we also have the bonds for Sale and Stonewall and Wellington and the other streets that we've done, and so just as a whole, some of those bonds will roll off at some point, and we need to, I think I would rather us look and say, hey, we want to spend 25% of our money, or whatever the percentage is, on street and infrastructure improvements, and not kind of bind ourselves into that $2 million over and above bonds.
Well, the council will be able to determine that balance when
Right.
it comes to the council.
Well,
so.
and there will be new council members and all that, but I think as we're trying to kind of develop this policy, thinking about those long-term things is very good, and I appreciate the Transportation Committee and press thinking through this.
All right, thank you very much, Press. I
Thank you all.
appreciate it. All right, we have nothing else in the work session, so at 5:17, we will go out of work session, and the city council will go into executive session.
The recipe for great food is simple. Make it fresh. Wings to go in Greenville, where every order is a custom order made with fresh ingredients. Wings to go, 7818 Wesley Street in Greenville. Simply great wings.
Need a part for the right price? Look for that red and blue sign. Henley Auto Supply at 1510 Stonewall. Over 800,000 CarQuest parts to choose from. Domestic, European, and Asian parts. Henley Auto Supply at 903-455-1969. 455-1969. Henley Auto Supply has the right part to keep your vehicle running. And backed by the best hometown service. Henley Auto Supply. Great people, great products, great prices. Henley Auto Supply and CarQuest.
The recipe